Should you play Fallout 76 in 2024? Now, that is a good question. Fallout 76 is a multiplayer role-playing game set in a post-apocalyptic world. It was released in 2018 by Bethesda and received mixed to very, very negative reviews from critics and players, mainly due to a lot of technical issues, the lack of the story, and very poor design choices. However, since then, Bethesda has released many updates and expansions that have improved Fallout 76's performance, added a lot of new features, content, and introduced human NPCs and a lot of new awesome things like dialogue options. Some players have praised the game, like myself, for its addictive gameplay, its open world, which I absolutely love, and the very fun co-op that you can have in the game. So in this video, we are going to be talking about if you should be playing Fallout 76 in 2024. The short answer from me would be yes, definitely. Go out, buy this game, play this game. It's absolutely amazing in my opinion. I have put over 1700 hours into the game. I'm almost level 500 now. I would highly recommend playing this game, okay? It's an absolute banger. Bethesda has really stuck with it since launch, and they have made something awesome here that the community still engages with, and that Bethesda to this day still engages with. Like, we're getting a map expansion this year. We're getting two, technically, and that is insane. As soon as you exit Vault 76, you're immediately greeted by NPCs in the game and by immediate dialogue options that tell you of this story of buried treasure across Appalachia, which is an engaging topic that, will interest you, especially if you're, trying to become powerful in this game, a new kind of treasure that can just excel a faction or players. And it's actually a really cool story in the way it turns out, from the settlers to the raiders. I highly recommend, again, if you haven't played this game yet, go play this game. Like, there's over 17 million players now. Microsoft is keeping it going. Bethesda is keeping it going with a lot of third-party support and internal studio support. I am so happy that they've actually kept this game going, especially for so long, because I did not expect like the level of this game that it's ever hit to be like this level. Honestly, like, they have expeditions, they have several story expansions, they had a battle royale, and they had some other content that they did remove that I feel like they should bring back. Like, their vault raids, those were good. Like, were just fucking hard to maintain, and they were usually really broken. But I would really love for Bethesda to bring those back, because they were a lot of fun, especially for players like me. They were actually a challenge, like a hard, difficult challenge that Fallout 76, granted, has not had for us, like, as high level players for a long time now, because everything is usually really easy. We slaughter enemies, and vault raids was always something that, we would get our asses kicked, we would get our asses handed to us. And that's one criticism I would give to Bethesda, to give us that, but the rest of the content itself, absolutely amazing. So yes, you start this story, trying to find some buried treasure. You go down to the Wayward, you introduce yourself, you do all that first 5-6 hours of first story content, and then you get into the good shit once you hit level 20, right? You get into that good shit. You meet the Overseer, you start talking about vaccinating the new inhabitants of Appalachia, the settlers and raiders. You go to the plant that I'm not going to mention, because I think it's probably one of the coolest quests that Bethesda has done, so I'm not going to really spoil that part. But you go to the plant, you get the vaccine for them, and then you get to side with a faction, which does have ramifications for your character, right? A faction will dislike you, like you, depending on your choices. You'll have access to high-tech gear, and the final mission is completely different considering on what faction you side with. Now, personally, I've only done the raider side, but I have seen what the settler side has to offer, and it is still pretty cool. Either with settlers, you kind of just like actually sneak in kind of, or burrow your way in, let's say. And the raiders is like, we're fucking bombing this shit. Blow it up, open that goddamn door. And I think like both ways are pretty creative considering each faction. And, it leaves some replayability there if you want to make more than one character, which you can. And Bethesda, I'm pretty sure, added a system where you can start at level 20, which I think is absolutely fucking awesome, because then you don't have to grind 20 levels for like 3 hours and just be slogging along just to get to the good quests. So another good thing that Bethesda has added, if you're a new player, you get to start out at level 20 if you so choose to. And then after you completed all of that story content, which is a solid 20 to 25 hours, might I add, if you do both questing from raiders and settlers, and a bunch of side content you can find around the map, which I'm going to be honest, all the side content around the map might even add up to like another 30 or 40, and then the events and actual multiplayer things that you can go on in the game, which could probably add another 20, and that's just from Wastelanders. And then you have Steel Dawn, which is honestly one of the coolest Brotherhood of Steel stories that I've had, that I've seen in any Fallout game. I'm gonna be honest, it is so good. Steel Dawn is about the Brotherhood of Steel faction coming back after the main quest. Now, there's two main quests, obviously. There's Wastelanders, and then there's the main quest that Bethesda made for the launch of 76. Now, the launch of 76, trying to figure out what happened to everyone, right? You're going through all these factions, the Free State, the Brotherhood, Responders, everybody. Responders are the faction, kind of like the Minutemen in Fallout 4, trying to help people. They were firefighters, they were paramedics, they were doctors. teaming together to help rebuild. You know, the Brotherhood of Steel, obviously we know who that is. Now, the Free State you might not know, but they're basically the enclave of, you know, the other Fallout games. You know, it's kind of their own little offset faction. And it kind of builds off of that because the main story was trying to find out what happened when the Scorched happened. Now, it ends with you bombing the Scorched Beast Queen's lair and killing the Scorched Beast Queen, which is, you know, ending in an event that anyone can participate in, which I think is awesome, and everyone gets some cool rewards. And then the Brotherhood still comes back for Steel Dawn, and then they have to, you know, reconcile, and they have to make sure that everyone is okay with them being there. They have to start trade agreements. You have to start negotiating with the settlers and the raiders, which makes it easier and harder, you know, if you faction with them or not. And that does affect it a lot. And one thing I like to add with the dialogue options is that your perks and your skill trees actually matter. If you have 10 charisma, that's going to matter. You have a certain perk, that's going to matter. You do certain quests from the main story of Fallout 76, that will affect your story in Wastelanders and in Steel Rain and Steel Dawn. And I think that's a really unique way of them keeping it all together. And I love that Bethesda put in that much effort to do that. It really shows that Bethesda, even with this broken ass launch of the game, really stuck with it and have truly made it something awesome. Like, I'm pretty sure they have over 5,000 to 10,000 players concurrently on Steam. Count with PlayStation, count with Xbox. You probably have 30, 40, 50,000 players concurrently, which is awesome. You know, you have a solid player base, a healthy player base, and then not to mention probably millions of players monthly, you know, like, honestly, which I think but Microsoft wanted to go for, or else they would have shut it down. So now you're level 50 to 80. You know, you're granted, you completed all the main story, Wastelanders, Steel Rain, Steel Dawn. Now what do? You know, you've been playing for about 30, 40, 50 hours. You know, you're really happy with your builds, you're really happy with all your weapons. Now what do? Now, when you hit level 50, you hit a certain perk called Legendary Perks, where you can have some crazy ass bonuses, right? Now, these are very grind worthy, so you're gonna need to be very high level, like hundreds and hundreds of levels high, right? So you get to scrap old perk cards. So say if you were melee builds, now you want to go rifle, scrap all your melee perk cards, and then you get to put that towards your legendary perks, which then say, you know, you'll get extra bonuses in power armor, or you can have extra strength or perception, or any of the special stats, or you can have special melee attack damage, and it just makes your character more powerful. And it's really for endgame players. Like, I'm talking level 200, level 300, level 400, right? I wouldn't really classify it for, you know, level 50s, which you can use, but it won't be much of a help considering, you know, you're very low level. Now, after the legendary perks, obviously, I recommend starting your first daily ops. Now, daily ops are very fun little dungeons that you can do. You know, they're about 10 to 12 minutes long. You know, you do them quickly enough in 8 minutes or less, you'll get the best rewards, which I recommend 2 people at minimum to do them. You can do them with 1, but they're very tricky to get in 8 minutes. But you do those, you know, you get a bunch of cool Brotherhood rewards, you get a bunch of cool new plans for your camp, and you haven't even got to camp building yet, where you can build your own home base, and you can build up to like 2 or 3 different camps, and assign them to where you want to go, and you can turn one on and turn one off, so it's really awesome. You know, you can have one that's like a settler base, the one that's a raider base, then one that's like a Brotherhood base, or one that's just your own home camp. There's so many different options, and so many different plans, I might add. Now, and then if you also like, you know, the monetization kind of way, if you're a big fan of Fortnite, or if you're a big fan of Apex, and you like spending money on these games, there's a Atomic Shop as well, where there's a lot of shit you can buy. Now, there's the stuff like lunch boxes and carry weight boosters, which I don't recommend. You'll get those from events, so it's not really that useful, but there are a lot of really good camp plans. There's a lot of cool, like, vendor bots you can buy, one with like a coat, and they'll show like his insides, you know, like his robot stuff, like I'm selling shady shit, which I think is really cool. But this is really unique with the Atomic Shop items, but they are also really unique and put a lot of effort into the main game stuff. There's not just everything that's really good is in the Atomic Shop, but there's a lot of good stuff that's in the base game as well. And now once you get through all of that, you also have camp shelters. We can't even get to that part yet. Camp shelters, which add even more customization. Now, there's a bunch of different ones you can buy from the Atomic Shop, but then there's also ones that you can get from the main game as well. Now, camp shelters are basically camps, underground, like vaults, that have a fucking massive camp budget. Like, it is huge, the amount of, like, budget that you have here. You're able to put down hundreds of thousands of items. You can make them clip off. You can put, I don't think you can put companions in them, but I'm pretty sure you can put stores in them. There's a lot of customization with these. I've seen some pretty unique ones. Personally, I made a Brotherhood of Steel missile base, and I'm probably going to do another video on that, or you can go watch another past video of mine where I go showcase it off. But it's just a lot of effort that I put into that, a lot of resources, right? Camp building takes a lot of resources, so either grind for it, you can buy it, you can get people to give you stuff, you know, if you trade with them, or if you make buddies, the high level buddies. it just, there's so many different ways to get these supplies. It's awesome. Now, after all of that, you do, the daily ops, you do camp, you do shelters, you have legendary perks. Say you're level 150, level 100. Now, you can be way lower level when doing this. Expeditions are your next best bet. Now, expeditions are little map expansions. We have the Pit and Atlantic City. Now, when they announced the Pit expansion, I thought it was a Fallout 3 remake, personally. But no, it was a Fallout 76 expansion, which I was kind of down by, but it's still very fun, right? So you go to the pit, you help these people, fight these raiders they're at a little bit of a war. There is some story to it, but not as much as say like Wastelanders or Steel Dawn. Now, personally, I do enjoy the expeditions for the difficulty level. If you are a decently low level, or considering now they got rid of all the legacy weapons. Now, if you don't know what a legacy weapon was, it was a weapon that you could once get, but now you couldn't. So, say like an explosive flamer or an explosive laser weapon. Like at the start of the game, people were glitching them, they were duping them, so there were thousands and hundreds of thousands of them around the game, and the Bethesda decided to cut them. Now, personally, I hate that, because people who got legacies, now if you were trolling with them, obviously, if you were fucking around with other players with them, they deserve to lose those. But someone like me who put a lot of time into getting one, I find it bullshit that I lost mine. Even I still have one that all it did was lose its explosive like damage like visual effect, right? It still has two, like my Gauss shotgun. When I was doing something, just a random quest, I got given it to me, and it had an explosive perk where it shot explosive shots, which I was like amazed by, and I still have that. But it was really stupid how they did get rid of legacy weapons. But back to the expeditions, they're like longer daily ops. Basically, that's what they are. But they're a lot of fun. They add a lot more story, a lot more enemies, a whole completely new map, both sides. And then in March, we're apparently going to be getting a completely new map expansion with Atlantic City as well, where we'll actually be able to explore the map, a completely different area, which I think is awesome. My favorite pit mission is probably the most sensational game, right? You'll talk with these people. It's like a game show, right? You'll talk with the brother and sister. They're like the continuous winners. You make them lose, obviously. You beat their asses. You win, and then you're the new champion. You get a bunch of cool rewards. You can get a bunch of cool Brotherhood of Steel rewards. You can get a bunch of cool camp rewards. You'll get ammo that you were using. If you're holding a certain gun, it's just a lot of cool stuff in the game that just makes it so amazing. And now I completely forgot to talk about this, but after like all of that expedition stuff, your cool weapons, make sure that you upgrade them with all the resources that you've picked up, picking up plans, learning the plans. That's one thing I know a decent amount of low level players don't know yet. When you pick up plans, you have to make sure that you learn them, right? So you learn all the you learn all the upgrades, all the mods for those weapons. You can add scopes, you can add suppressors, you can add better receivers, which receivers are one of the biggest parts of damage. Now, personally, if you want a little tip, my heavy build, I always use prime receivers, because the ammo, it is expensive to build in an end game state, because you're going to need flux. Now, flux you get by nuking, which we'll get to in a little bit, but you can make a lot more ammo with those fluxes, right? It comes more plentiful, which is why I also use prime ammo, because it's just like way quicker to use that, and it does like another 30-40 damage per shot, which I do love. Now, the real end game in this game is the nukes, right? You'll go through a silo, which is like this big dungeon, which you can cheat through, which I have done many times in order to nuke the area. Now, I might or may not make a video on how to do this, it might be really quick, but it's just a really simple way of being able to bomb the 3 world bosses that are in the game. You have the Scorchbeast Queen, which is the one from the start, the Wendigo Colossus Earl, which is probably like still to this day one of the hardest bosses to fight. I mean, especially since the removal of the legacy weapons. And then you have like the fucking mole something. I actually don't know its name, but it's near Nuka World. The Nuka World like resort, kind of encampment thing they set up in the bottom left of the map in the ash heap. But it's a very weird enemy. It's like this huge mole rat that has ultra sight that like blocks damage. It is a very cool world boss, I would like to say. And I would like Bethesda obviously to add more, because it adds more end game to it, right? There's a lot more world bosses to do, and it is really cool to have all these awesome world bosses. Like, say you could be walking around and someone's like, yo, I'm gonna drop this fucking nuke, and then everyone in the lobby, and I mean everyone in the lobby, rushes to that world boss and they kill it. And it's this big community thing. You'll probably have 10-15 players there. You'll have a camp set up maybe by some player. They'll have the turret shooting at the Scorch Beast. Or now Earl is in a tunnel, but it's usually for the Scorch Beast that everyone does this. You'll have a camp set up. You'll have turrets set up. You'll have a bunch of players shooting this fucking thing out of the sky. Now you want a tip on how to get the Scorch Beast Queen to land? Shoot its wings so it's crippled. But there's so many cool things that the community does do, and you can get lucky as well in this community. For my example, I did a video actually where I gave over 500 stim packs away to a bunch of players, which I think, I had 1,000 anyway, right? I'll make a video, I'll help a lot of players out, like, and these players were ranging from level like 10 to 40, right? So like fairly new to the game. And it was something nice I thought I would do, for the Fallout 76 community that has given me so much and that I've put so much time into that'll help new players as well. But yeah, those are mostly of all the reasons on why I would recommend Fallout 76 in 2024, and I'm just going to outright tell you guys to go play it if you haven't already. There are so many awesome things from the main story to expeditions to daily ops to the crafting to power armor crafting to legendary modules. There is a grind here. If you are into grindy games where you put a lot of time into this game and you can get some pretty solid rewards after a week or a month, this game is 100% for you, right? Especially if you're a fan of Fallout or first-person shooters and RPGs, this is the game for you. This is like a perfect game for people who love to just chill and like unwind. Like, I'm gonna be honest, this is a perfect unwinding game. Even if you don't plan on grinding, just walking around and killing shit, it is a perfect game for that. It's better than, I'd say, Fallout 4 or any other Fallout game for just unwinding. And it's one of the reasons why I love the game as well. Now, if you did enjoy this video, consider subscribing, liking, sharing, and commenting if you also choose to. Go play Fallout 76, especially if you're new. You'll get a head start, and I'll see you all in the next video.